Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be working with a color combo. This is a color combo from the Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artist page on Facebook, put together by Paula Keene and Carrie the Crafter, and organized by Patricia and Mariah. And the color combo includes gray shingles, absinthe green, lemon chrome, and then you can use oval mark making, which I didn't do, and you can also optionally use some black and white, or choice of metallic, which is what I'm going to be using the Citron Pearl X for. I challenged myself to only use 3 stencils, also sold by PM Artist Studio. The first is a grid, the second is this really pretty heart-shaped one. I believe this one's Becky Wokhorn's design, the hearts. And I created a little bit of shimmer inside the hearts by layering them over the grid background. This way I had some of the jelly plate showing. I just wanted a little touch of some of the gold, or I guess it's like a citron, kind of a greenish yellow gold in certain areas. I didn't want to have too much on this first layer. And then when I was happy with kind of how the hearts were dispersed, and I only focused on the heart area for this one. And once I removed both of the stencils, you can kind of see where those little gold spots show up. And then I layered my heart stencil right back over it, and it didn't have to line up perfectly. For this next part, I'm going to be using my black over this stencil in just a little bit of area, not a lot, because I want to just get like a grungy layer for this part. So I'm just using my 2-inch brayer, and that just gives me a little more control over how much area I'm covering. And doing it over the stencil helps as well because it kind of brayers off some of that paint, so it goes onto the gel plate a little bit lighter. I just didn't want to have too much black this early on in my layering. But I did like having black kind of in the first part when it's just a little bit here and there. So for my next layer, after that dried, I'm using this stencil. This is designed by Christy Hartman, also sold at PM Artist Studio. Sunflower Bunch, I believe is what it's called. And I'm using the grid right over this stencil. Again, I'm really trying to layer up with these 3 stencils to create really unique designs. Now, the black on my brayer wasn't completely dry when I added in my white, so it really starts out white when I first start brayering, but as I go along, the white turns into more of a gray color. But gray is one of the colors in the color combo, even though I have a gray. But I really liked how it started toning down that white anyway, so it wasn't as harsh on the final print. So I'm only going to remove the grid stencil. I'm going to leave the sunflowers. I did wait for the white paint to dry before I added my next color. The absinthe green looked more like a blue-green to me, so I'm using my teal or aqua, and then I'm mixing that with some olive to create a bluer green kind of color. Now, I didn't completely blend those, so you do see a little bit of the blue and a little bit of the green separately, but I really liked how it looked, so I just created the background kind of mixing up these colors, but not completely blending them. And I don't care if I'm getting some of this paint inside the petals. I think it just adds to the interest. While the paint was drying, I didn't wait for it to completely dry. I used my yellow to put some color over the flowers. And these are sunflowers, so it kind of works out with the bright lemon yellow color. Since the green wasn't completely dry when I added the yellow did start taking on a yellow-green tint to it. And I liked that, but it wasn't that bright lemon yellow to have in the color combo. So what I did is I put my grid stencil back over that paint while it was still wet. And I just took my 2-inch brayer and brayered away some of that color in between where the stencil design is, just so I have a little bit more jelly plate showing so I can add some of that bright yellow color. So at this point, I let the jelly plate dry completely. And now I'm going to put a little bit of the titanium white and the bright cadmium yellow on the plate. And I'm going to do the same thing I did with the blue and the green and just kind of mix them, but not entirely. So I'm taking both and dabbing them around in different areas, and then I'll start brayering just so I get a nice bright lemony yellow color. But I also like having some of that white in there. I just removed my stencil at this point and I let it dry, but I wanted to have a little bit of definition around these flowers so that it had kind of like some contrast in there. So I offset my flower stencil to the design on the gel plate. And what I really like about this technique is you can decide how thick you want your line to be, and it all depends on how far over or up or down you move your stencil for that shadow. I just used straight black for this, and I'm hoping to get a nice outline just on one side of the flowers. Here I'm removing that stencil once again, and I do let it completely dry. And I decided I wanted to add yet another layer. At this point, I was thinking it would be really nice to have the Citron Gold Pearl X powder popping through just a little bit from this background. And by creating this offset, I still will have a little bit of the gel plate left to use for my final color, which will be the color that will pull this entire print. And that's going to be the gray color. Okay, so I'm removing my stencil one last time here. And here is where I'm applying my paint to pull this print. I am using my 110 pound Nina White cardstock for my print paper today. And there are so many layers on this plate. This is the 8x10 gel plate. I had to add not only a second layer of paint, but a third, because it was just, the paint was getting absorbed into the layers on the gel plate so quickly that I had to do about 3 layers of paint just to get enough to cover the background. Now I knew that there were a lot of layers on the plate and that it would take quite a bit of time to, adhere, and I wanted to leave it to dry for about 2 hours. I normally do 20 to 30 minutes is my normal range, but because of all those layers, in 2 hours, it was enough time for me anyway. I felt like it pulled up everything on the plate and it looked so beautiful when I pulled it up. I just love the way there's some pops of the black in the background. Then it's got that shadow layer with the black and that gold layer on the flowers and those little pops of the gold with the hearts in the front. I love the white, how it has almost like a pop art look to it. And the gray, you can see that that just gives that definition to the flower area. I just think these colors all worked so well together. I really love this color combo. I think that Paula Keen and Carrie the Crafter did a great job picking these colors out for April 2026. And I absolutely love these flowers because they don't really look like sunflowers. This is again by Christy Hartman, her design. They just look abstract a little bit, and you can kind of do whatever you want with these. And I just love that this will make a great background. It could be part of a card. It may be part of a little book that I'll put together. And I'm excited to try using these in a next project. I love this, and let me know what you think of the color combo this month. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. In the meantime, happy crafting, y'all.